Okay, so today we're going to talk about polynomials. Now, we've already talked about quadratics, which is a type of polynomial, and we've gone into specifics about that, but we're going to learn more generally what is a polynomial. We're going to learn how to write polynomials in standard form and classify them. Some things to remember before we start here. Just a quick reminder that the thing that's down here, that's called a base. So in this case, x is our base, and the 3 there is called an exponent. When you put them together, x to the third power, this is called a power. Also, a reminder that the number in front of, so this is multiplication, this is really 5 times x to the 6th. What we would read it as 5x to the 6th. But that 5, that number in front is called a coefficient. So those things will come into play today. And just a reminder too, often like when you see just x, there's a couple of hidden numbers. Namely, the coefficient, the number in front, this is really a 1. It's really 1x. But also, there is an exponent on the x. It's really also a hidden 1. We just don't write it. So when you see y, or let's say x squared y, really this has a 1 on the y. That really means y to the first power. Okay, so just a couple of reminders about bases, exponents, coefficients. All right, what is a polynomial and how do we classify them? So first, let's talk about the most basic polynomial, and that's called a monomial. Mono means 1, so you probably remember that. Mono means 1, so it's one term. And so a monomial can be a number of things. It can be just a number, like this, just 7. That's a monomial. It can be a product. Remember, product means multiplication. It can be a product of numbers and variables with whole number exponents. Well, that would be something like this right here. You've got a 2, a number. You've got a variable with an exponent. It's a whole number, 2. And another variable with an exponent. Now these are all being multiplied together, even though that might not seem, those dots aren't written there, so it might not be extremely obvious. So it could be just a variable with a power as long as it's a whole number exponent. So these are all called monomials. You'll often hear too the word a term. A term and a monomial are the same thing. So those are kind of used interchangeably. Okay, so how do we find the degree of a monomial? This will come into play when we talk about more bigger polynomials. So monomials, finding the degree, pretty simple. You add the exponents of the variables. So you want to identify the variables. In this case, my variables are x and y. And then you want to look at the exponents that are on those variables. So I see a 3 and a 5, and you simply add those together. This is your degree. It would be, so the degree of this monomial is 8. This would be my answer here. Okay, so finding degrees of monomials, pretty easy. Just be careful. There's a couple of things that can go haywire if you're not paying attention. So find the degree of a monomial. Now find the variables. Okay, again, z, find the exponents on the variable. Well, there's only one variable, so this is pretty easy. The degree is 6. Okay, b, 5.6. Notice there are no variables. That means the degree is 0. Okay, because really this has x to the 0 power. We're not even going to write that. It's easier to just think of this as there's no variable, so that means the degree is 0. Part C, a lot of people here are tempted to say the degree is 3. Wrong, right? There's 2 variables, okay? And remember, this has a hidden 1. Now I have a degree of 1 and 3. We want to put those 2 exponents together. Now that means my degree is 4. Okay, so don't forget about those hidden ones. So that means here on part D, x squared bc to the third, again, put that 1 in there if you forget, just to make sure. And then you got 2 plus 1 plus 3, so this would have a degree of 6. That's how you find degrees of monomials. Take your time, be careful. Although if you do that, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Okay, what is a polynomial? So a polynomial is one or more monomials. Okay, a monomial is still a polynomial. So here would be one monomial put together by addition or subtraction. So in this case, we have this term or monomial, this term, and this term. They're put together by addition or subtraction. So I have three terms or three monomials put together by addition and subtraction. Okay, so these are all polynomials, and here's another one. Okay, there's a note here. Polynomials have no variables in denominators or exponents, no roots or absolute values of variables, and all variables have whole number exponents. Okay, just a couple of things to be aware of. All right, so now we know how to find the degree of a monomial. How do we find the degree of a polynomial? What you want to do is find the degree of each monomial or term first, and then for a polynomial, it's the biggest one. So think of this. You've got here, find the degree of this polynomial. So you want to look at each of these terms. So this is a monomial, this is a monomial, and this is a monomial. Well, these are easy to find their degrees because they only have one variable. So the degree of this first term, 9x to the 7th, is just 7. This one is 4, and this one is 2. Now, what is the biggest one? The degree then is 7. Now, people are tempted to add these together. Each one of these are separate monomials, so that only applies when you're talking about one monomial, and you'll see what I mean here in this next one. Okay, so now here I have this is a monomial, this is a monomial, and this is a monomial, so three terms. Now, remember, I want to look at their exponents on variables. So this has 2 and 7. I do want to add those together. So this would give me 9. This one would be 12. And this one would be 11. Now, which one is the biggest? 12. So the degree here would be 12. Okay? So take your time, find the degree of each monomial first, and then whichever one is the biggest for the polynomial is going to be your degree. All right, let's do another one just to make sure we got this. All right, so this first term has a degree of 4 plus 2 plus 3, so that would be 9. Okay, be careful. Remember, there's a 1 there, so this would be 8. There's a 1 here, so this would be 5. Okay, so what is the degree? This would be 9. The biggest of these would be 9. That's how you find a degree of a polynomial. Why is that important? It tells you what the polynomial, when you graph it, it tells you how it behaves, what it looks like. So that's why we need to know that. Okay, now standard form. Standard form is you're going to write the polynomial in order from the biggest degree term to the smallest. So you'll notice here, if we're looking at this polynomial, this has a degree of 3, 2, 1, and 0. So notice it's going down in descending order. It is decreasing. So this is in standard form already. Okay, so that is what we mean by standard form. Highest degree, work your way down to the smallest one in order. Now, when you write your answers for polynomials, make sure it's always in standard form. Okay, coefficients. We talked about what coefficients are. Now remember the signs in front, anything in front. So this term is all together, and so is this one. Notice the sign in front of the term goes with it. These are all terms, monomials, right? But those signs go with it. So when we're talking about coefficients, we're talking about the 6, the -4, the 12, and the -17. The leading coefficient would be the number that's in front, okay, once you put it into standard form. So in this case, the leading coefficient would be 6. All right, so that's all the stuff about polynomials. Hopefully you've seen some of this before, generally talked about in Algebra 1. So we're gonna rewrite these in standard form, identify the leading coefficient, and then we'll just kind of put all this together. All right, so first thing you wanna do is say, what is the degree? That's 1, this is 5, this is 4, and 0. Oh, I should say 3, sorry, and 0. And now you want to put these in order, but we want to start with the highest one. And remember, the sign that's in front goes with it. So this is my biggest one. That's going to go with it. So I'm going to put negative 7x to the 5th. Make sure that negative comes with it. All right. Then my next term would be, next biggest one would be this. So I'm going to put plus 4x to the 3rd. Okay. And then here, okay, now notice there's no plus sign because it's positive. It's in the beginning. It's in the front, so we don't put that. But here I'm going to need that because it's no longer in the beginning, in the front. And then finally, negative 10. Okay? And that's how you put it in standard form. Now, what is the leading coefficient? I'm going to abbreviate this LC for leading coefficient. The leading coefficient here is the number in front once you put it in standard form. Just the number. Coefficients are numbers in front, not the x. Okay, so this would be negative 7. Okay, and all right, how about this one? Let's put it into standard form. What would it be? It would be, the biggest degree term would be y to the 7th, then negative 9y to the 4th, then 2y squared. What's my leading coefficient? The number in front. It doesn't look like there is one, right? So that means that's really a hidden 1. Don't forget that. So my leading coefficient is 1. Okay? And that's how you do that. Okay? All right, classifying polynomials. This is kind of the last thing that we need to talk about. Classifying you always do with two parts. You need to find the degree and then use this table and the number of terms. And so you're classifying, when you name it, this is really naming it, you should have two parts. You should have one part based on the degree, and the second part of the name will be based on the terms. Okay? All right. So let's take a look. Actually, we're just going to go and put this all together. Okay, so here we go. It says for each polynomial, rewrite in standard form, then identify the leading coefficient, the degree, and the number of terms. And then finally, name the polynomial. Okay, so standard form. In order to do this, we are going to find the degree of each term. So this would be 1, 3, 0, and 5. Okay, so the biggest one is that last term. Now remember that negative has got to go with it. So I'm going to go negative 4x to the 5th. Again, if it helps, put that box around it, cross it out as you go. And then this is next, plus 7x to the 3rd. Okay, and then plus 3x. And then lastly, plus 12. Okay, now it's in standard form. My leading coefficient is the number in front now, so that would just be negative 4. Make sure it's just a number, no variables. The degree, well, that's the biggest one. We found the degree of each term. The biggest one degree here would be 5 for that polynomial. How many terms are there? So we kind of boxed them already. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 terms. Now you are going to use this and this to classify it. So the degree, I'm going to use that chart. I have degree 5. So when I look here at my chart, degree 5 says it's quintic. So the first part of the name is going to be quintic. Okay, and now I want to use this second chart here. I need to say how many terms is it? Well, it says 4. When I get 4 or more, I'm going to say it's a polynomial. So this would be, the second part of the name would be quintic polynomial. Whenever you do this, make sure there's 2 parts to the name, okay? Always 2. Start with the degree, then the terms, and just follow that chart. Okay, let's try one more, make sure that this makes sense. Okay, so same directions. And let's look at our polynomial. It's negative 11x squared plus x to the 4th. Put it in standard form. The degree of this is 2. Degree of that is 4. So I want to start with the biggest one, which would be x to the 4th, and then minus 11x squared. Okay, what's my leading coefficient? Notice there's nothing in front. Again, that means it's a 1. Okay, what's the degree? That's the biggest of the two terms here we have, which is 4. It's the biggest one, highest degree term. How many terms? Well, we got 2. And now we're going to name it. So degree here, using this chart, it's quartic. And then terms, I want to go right here. It says it's a binomial, okay? So this is a quartic binomial. Again, make sure you have both parts. And that's how you write in standard form and classify. All right, hope that makes sense. Don't forget to write this into your planner and submit it to Schoology. When you do, please check it off. All right, see ya.